We're live.
Yes.
That was easy.
Yes.
So, Joe Ellingston, Dennis Stokes, Initial Ascent. You guys drove up for the pod.
We did.
Welcome to Green Acres.
It's good to be here, man.
Yeah, that's cool. So you guys drove up last night?
Yep.
I'm going to try the Project Mango because it has an elk on it.
I like that.
It's the first time I've had this.
Got Freedom Punch. It's got an eagle on it.
Little Ranger Berry. I have no idea what's on it.
Taste test.
Oh, yeah.
200 milligrams of naturally sourced caffeine.
It's going to be a great podcast.
Just what we needed.
Should be interesting.
How did you guys meet?
Gosh, church. Yeah, you'll laugh at this. So Joe was a greeter at our church, and I would come in, and I've always been, I guess, the antithesis of a social butterfly.
Yeah.
I put my blinders on, I put my head down, and I go in there, find my seat, worship.
I
Get
can't
out.
stand greeters. I don't know what's wrong with me, but like I don't want the door open for me, and I don't. Why is that?
I don't know, but it's like it's something about personal space or something. You know, I can open that door for myself. You know,
Oh, you're like me.
but
That's
Joe was
terrible.
the best at it. He was so welcoming.
I can see that.
Just a smiley face, man. Make
He
your
was.
day good.
He was so welcoming. And so for 2 years, for 2 years, Joe was a greeter, and I shook his hand, you know, and my wife and I would look at each other because he looked just like a guy that I played ball with back
Oh,
in
really?
college. Oh, yeah. His name was David Thornton, and we called him Day-Day. And so it was kind of a quiet joke between my wife and I. We would go to walk through the door, and we would see Day-Day standing there and just kind of chuckle a little bit. And so I never introduced myself, but I always, you know, shook his hand, hey, how you doing? And we'd go on about our business. And then a couple years later, I guess, our boys somehow made it on the same flag football team. And his son was a year younger than mine. And so we went through 2 or 3 practices, I guess. I'm sitting over there.
It was the first one.
Was it the first one?
First one.
I don't
I'm great. I'm
remember
going
it
to
that
walk
way.
up to him.
Yeah.
First one.
First practice.
I was sitting over there by myself because I don't want to be bothered. I'm just, you know, next thing I know, he comes up to me, and I'm like, oh, it's Day-Day. And the rest is history.
Yep.
My guard went down.
Have
The
you?
wall
Are
came
you
down.
introverted? Would you say?
I would say, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Chase went and saw something on Saturday night. It's another part of my life, and I'm definitely the opposite of that.
You're a
So,
musician.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting. That. Yeah, you can go on stage and you play the guitar, right?
Guitar and mandolin. Yep.
Okay, and in front of the audience, but yet you want your own space and stuff. I get that. And then, would you say you're extroverted, Joe?
Definitely more so than Dennis.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Have you retired yet?
I did, man.
Okay, let's break that down, guys. Like, no, he hasn't retired. He's doing Initial Ascent, full send. But like, Initial Ascent was a side hustle. Initial Ascent was like your passion project.
Right.
I don't know if you were, maybe you were passionate about corporate America. Tell everybody what you were doing for how many years?
Almost 30. I was there
Yeah.
29. So, yeah, it was, I would say there were definitely peaks and valleys where I was very passionate about it.
Right.
And so, yeah, my background, you know, when I was in 96, I got hired by Black & Decker. And back then, you know, it was the culture within Black & Decker was they would hire people and then they would instantly move you out of your kind of hometown is how they would operate. And then they would get you into an environment with another group of young adults, and then you work 24/7. My wife called it the firm, and it really was a lot like that. But when you're young and new into your job and all that, you're willing to just work endless hours. And I got to be a part of just some amazing things. You know, I got to be a part of the launch of DeWalt, which was,
Are you serious?
yeah,
I love DeWalt, for the record. I can back it up, too, if you look around.
it's legit.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was, I mean,
What year was that?
that was in the early 90s.
Okay.
And our whole strategy with DeWalt was, and the guy that actually was the president at the time, his name's Joe Gallag, brilliant marketer. he had this thought or belief that, hey, if we were able to go in and take, because Makita at the time was the dominant player within the power tool industry, especially cordless, they owned it. His whole philosophy was, if we can take the batteries out of the market and get our tools in their hands, then we'll win. So across the United States for probably 4 years, 5 years, we would go on, and I was living in Vegas at the time. They moved me to Vegas. And we would go onto those massive job sites where you might have an electrical contractor that might have 5,000 guns, cordless drills, 7.2 Makitas. And we would literally go in and say, I will take every one of those off the job site and give you brand new ones, but you got to give me every battery charger. And we did this across the United States. So you can imagine the amount of tools we collected. And then we ended up sending them to, it was down into Phoenix for our national sales meeting. And there were piles of these cordless drills, Makitas, right? And Galli drove a bulldozer over them. I mean, it was such a cool kind of thing to be a part of, right?
Wow.
So that was the culture back then, and it was exciting, man. You know, I loved it. I did a bunch of different roles for him. Back then, it was mostly marketing, and then transitioned into sales. And I moved around. That was the thing; you had to move. So I went from Kansas to Vegas, and then I moved from Vegas to Ohio. And I was out in Ohio for a year, calling on all the assembly plants and things like that. It was a really cool job. Got to see every type of factory you could imagine, whether it was Mercedes, whether it was Toyota, Whirlpool. I mean, you name it. That's who I was calling on. And I did that for a while, and then I transitioned back to Vegas with them, and then I got into a full-time sales role for DeWalt. Did that until early 2000, I think it was, and then had an opportunity to switch over to one of our other brands, which was Quickset Locks. I did that for a couple of years, and then I transferred up to Idaho and became the regional manager for the Northwest, and then it kind of expanded in a couple different regions. And from there, it moved on to, I was a director. At one point, I had every brand, and it was just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very challenging. And I said this to the folks as I was leaving, you know, because when you make that kind of decision after so many years, it does force you to step back and you do a lot of reflection, right? As to, okay, this has been such a huge part of my life for so long. And it all boiled down to, I think the greatest thing about that role or that job, and I was surrounded by so many talented people, right, that were just so good at what they do. And that's why you see corporate America companies perform at levels that are just hard to comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I ended up stepping down about just over a month ago. And, you know, it's kind of like, oh man, how's this going to be? But dude, it's the greatest thing ever. It's been fantastic. It's allowed me to really just clear my head of so much stuff, to be more laser focused with Initial Ascent and actually have time to stop and instead of have just an agenda of so much to get done, because you have to be really good at time management to kind of operate in those two spaces at the same time in corporate America, as well as doing what we're doing here, that you don't really have time to stop and think deep on some thoughts, right? So this has allowed me to step back and really say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a half a day today and I'm just going to focus on this. That never has happened.
Yeah, you see your bandwidth, man. Like there's just less distraction. It's crazy. Laser focused in. I bet Dennis is happy about this.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to have him, you know, around, and he is focused on it, no distractions, and that's awesome. Now we're worried about, you know, can Dennis make it? You know,
right?
Can Dennis do this appointment? We've kind of all melded our schedules together, so now he knows where I'm at. I know where he's at, and it's good. So I gotta step back just for a second. So, did Makita ever show up on these job sites and like try to stop this?
No, they were clueless. They're based out of Japan, and they didn't get the American culture.
Wow.
And they dominated it, like 75-80% market share, just owned it. And I think within less than 2 years from time we launched, DeWalt is $1 billion company.
Yeah.
I I've laughed about it, but it's a true statement. If I had yellow underwear back then, I would hit my sales numbers just off yellow underwear. It did not matter. DeWalt
Wow.
was such a powerful brand. So back to, let me finish that one story because there's an interesting thought here. So the president was Joe Galli, right? Visionary like I've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult. I mean, if you were on the left side of the room, you weren't performing. If you're on the right side of the room, you were performing. And it was that black and white. But he had, let's just say, some conflicts with the CEO at the time. And I won't get into all the details of that. But long story short, he ended up getting let go. And to this day, I mean, when he left very loud, like not happy. He's been the CEO of Milwaukee for probably the last 20 years, and they are kicking DeWalt's ass right now.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Yep.
They are.
They are.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that guy was good then.
Really good.
Dang.
I love me some Milwaukee Packouts.
Yeah.
You got some. Yeah, that's right.
Is there any way he can do some consulting for Initial Ascent? This guy sounds...
He's legit. I don't know if we can afford him, though.
No. Probably not. The whole backpack space, whose idea was it to get in there?
I think we kind of came together on
Yeah, I
it.
think it was a collective deal.
Yeah.
Collective
For
deal?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we came from different reasonings.
Mhm.
But yeah, we were going to a men's group at the time, monthly men's group. And it's funny how all this kind of has come together because of church.
Yep.
But yeah, we were going to a monthly men's group, and gosh, we had then been going to the Western Hunting Expo for years.
A couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, as families,
Mm-hmm.
and just enjoyed our time, And Joe and I we just gearhead central, so we just really enjoyed that part of it. And so yeah, I had most all the packs, but I was trying to find something that worked for me and worked for the issue that I had with my back, long-standing injury. And Joe was, I think he was coming from a different reason, but yeah, we kind of came together on it at really the same time and decided we'd go dip our toes.
Yeah, and I think, for me, a big part of it is I wanted to own my own business. I really did. I had that passion built into me for years and years, and I had tried different things and done different things, had some success with other businesses, but never a product business. And, prior to this, I started working down a path on a decoy keel to make it a retractable keel, right? So I got, instead of winding it up around the head of the duck, right, of the decoy. And so I always had this passion of doing something product-wise as well, and then being exposed to some of the things. But yeah, to Dennis's point, I really got into the backpacking side when I moved to Idaho. I just fell in love with it. Coming from Kansas, you just don't see anything, right? It's flat as can be. And for me, getting in that experience with a backpack on, realizing, okay, I can hike in here, and this is back in early 2000, 2004, 2005, and I'm not gonna see anybody. Versus growing up in Kansas, it was just night and day. And I just fell in love with the backpacking side of it way before I fell in love with the backpack hunting side of it.
And that was actually when you could backpack in there and not see anybody.
Not see anybody, yeah. Pretty spectacular.
Yeah. I never went on my first backpacking trip until 2002.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to do. And I had a guy that wanted to take me out to a high mountain lake. He's like, "You like to fish?" It's like, let's go. So we did.
The backpacking world, has had I wouldn't say a stronghold on people that don't hunt, but they've never really seemed to get it for hunters. Like, I've never seen a lot of hunters wearing some sort of REI-ish brand. For the most part, I've always seen fellow hunters taking hunting backpacks out west. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think there's a mantra out there that if you're a Western hunter, that you have to have a hunting backpack. But in the same light, how many people have we seen come into the booth And
Kelty
you
or
know, and
something
we're
like
yeah,
that.
and we're always asking them, you know, hey, what pack are you using? We just want to know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, a lot of guys are still using a Kelty or Gregory.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
shocking. And I would say even,
So I guess I'm wrong. I really just had never seen that.
yeah, we see a fair amount of it. But then, too, I think a bigger group that uses that caliber of pack has been the females
Mm-hmm.
because there's been nothing out
There's
there.
been nothing out there.
Right. So
Yeah.
they all come in, and that's really what, because if they wear a traditional hunting pack, it sits up 6-8 inches above on their shoulders, right? And they're hitting the back of their head, and it's just an absolute miserable experience. So that was the big reason why we came out the female.
Mm-hmm. And you have the youth line as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's interesting. The world that we live in, I would say, is predominantly, like, we're all Western hunters. You know, Dennis, you grew up down south, like you're a whitetail guy, but you're a Western hunter now, right?
Yep,
Through and through.
absolutely.
And Western hunters, man, like, I think they understand, like, there's only a few things that are non-negotiable when you're looking at a gear list, and backpacks on there. Like, I'd say boots are on there. Backpacking, like your backpack, those are like, besides your bow or rifle, that's your top purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You don't skim, and you got to find what works best for you. So what do you guys think defines a hunting backpack? What makes a backpack a hunting backpack?
I think it's got to be able to carry your gear.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have, you know, what you're gonna need for the day. And you have to, in the West, you have to be able to pack an animal out. You know, it's not like where I grew up and where Joe grew up. You know, where you're hunting on private land most of the time, and you can drive your 4-wheeler or you can drive your pickup to the base of your tree where you just shot the deer, load it up, and in 5 minutes you're back at the house hanging him up on the porch. That's what we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have the aluminum tub underneath there. I didn't know what the gutless method was back then.
Right?
But we've got this valuable resource that we've just taken, and we have to be able to take care of it. We have to be able to take care of that resource. So the only way to do it is to get it out on your back. And so that's where that backpack comes in, and they must be able to perform in the most efficient way possible, so you can get the most amount out at a time. The clock's ticking, especially when it's, you know, late August, early September. The clock's ticking. You got to be able to get that meat out of there and get it cooled down.
Okay. And then I'm buying what you're selling. I get that. Like, you do, like, it's got to be able to do all the things, right? When did you guys decide, like, we are officially going to come to market with something that we believe is, you have to believe this, is a better way? Like, if you come to market and you're like, I think our product's pretty decent, good luck. You have to come to market with, like, dude, our pack, this is better. We found a better way.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's funny you ask that question, Dan, because when we entered the space, it was saturated. No ifs, ands, or buts with packs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a lot of people ask us over the years, like, why the heck a
Mhm.
backpack? Why would you do that? Plus in Idaho, no less, right? Because
Right.
we've got a handful of manufacturers right in our backyard that there's some good manufacturers there.
Yeah.
I think for us, though, I mean, we had a desire to, you know, as Dennis said, to carry heavy loads more comfortably. And we did that trip over to New Zealand, which is where we rocked our first prototypes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It was like an epic trip, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime deal that Dennis and I went back in 2016, I think it was.
Yep.
And we made the decision, stupid decision, but it penciled out, that we were only going to take our prototype frame. So then we had to makeshift everything else. We had to makeshift, use somebody else's belt, somebody else's shoulder strap, another bag. But it was all centered around, we got to test this frame. And why not do it on the most epic trip in the world? Head to New Zealand and see if it works. So that's what we did. And it worked. It worked. It was a straight frame. We didn't have the contours and all the things, but we had the shape, the outline, so to speak. And when we got back from that trip, it was like, you know what? We have something here. Can we make it? Don't know. But we've got something. And I think coming back from that, it was like we had been into this now for probably since 2015. And we were working with Boise Tech Help, which was it was at BSU, Boise State, where they would take their engineering students and partner them up with an engineer so you could get a contracted rate that was lower. Gave them real life experience, cost affordable for somebody like us.
Yeah.
And they took us to that point where that was the working prototype we took.
Okay.
So when we got back, though, it was like, okay, now to go to that next level, we had kind of tapped their ability.
Right.
So we worked with another engineering firm for probably, 6-8 months? And it just wasn't a good fit. We figured that out really quick. It's like, this doesn't fit what we're trying to accomplish. So we pivoted, and actually some of the people at Boise Tech helped put us in touch with our current manufacturer.
Oh, they did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so we started working on it then with Kyle, who owns a composite company out in Rexburg. And we really humped it hard from 2017 to 2018 when we launched. But we were at the expo in 2017, and we had concepts in our brain around what we wanted the bag to look like, what we wanted the launching accessories to look like, but we didn't have them. We hadn't started really building those out. We were so focused on getting the frame right, because now we're 2.5 years into it, 2 years into it on the frame. And we're at the expo, and it's kind of like at that point, it's like, we got to make a decision. So I kind of snuck off, so to speak, and went and signed us up for a booth. And I come back, and we're walking. I'm like, hey, bud, got some good news. He's like, what's that? I go, we got ourselves a booth. And I said, bad news is we got 1 year to get everything figured out. And so from 2017, February to February 2018, I mean, if you talk about moving heaven and earth, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
To go from a point where we didn't have a frame that was functional to the point where we were comfortable with it. We were probably on about generation, what would you guess, Dan? 8, 9?
Yeah, probably so.
And we
By the
launched
end of that. Yeah, probably by the end of that fall.
Yeah. And we launched at Gen 14. But it was, nothing good is easy, right? We've all heard that. We live that in so many things that we do. That year was one of the best years of my life. I mean, it was endless hours. We were on the phone at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning with our engineer, all the time trying to get that frame figured out. And it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and to get the soft goods, done. I mean, I was focused primarily once the frame was, we kind of knew what we had, and once that was there, then my focus went to the lumbar region of our hip belt. And so I just remember, drawings upon drawings upon drawings, and trying to figure out that padding system, because there was no padding system out there that was good enough for me. And I don't want to sound, full of it or anything, but my back is what it is. And I wasn't willing to go get surgery. So I had to do something extra special for our back. So Joe and I got together, and we're like, what about a dual padded system where you have a condensed foam, a closed cell, and then you have an open cell that serves as a pillow top. And so we started using different sizes of those things in this lumbar pad. And finally, we found the thing that worked for me. And I've spent, when my back starts hurting, if I have a long day of standing or whatever, my back really starts bothering me, I can literally take our hip belt, put it on my back, tighten it down as tight as I can get it, walk around for 15 minutes, and my back pain's gone. And I've done that now for years. And it's that for me, with the combination of the frame and being able to put those heavy loads on there and literally carry them comfortably, that's been the game changer for me personally. It's like I say, it's that portion of it's been a personal vendetta, if you will, for me.
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be able to do some of the things that we're doing, hauling these animals out in a timely fashion, with what I was dealing with.
So 2018 rolls around. You're just coming off, like you gave yourself a deadline, Joe. Like you basically said, okay, we're signed up. I love it, right? Like a deadline is, we all should be able to give ourselves deadlines in anything. For example, I gave myself a 2-year deadline with ELKSHAPE when I sold my gym, and was like, I'm going to try to do ELKSHAPE full time instead of like part time. And then I told my wife, let me do this for 2 years. And then if it's not panning out, like, I'll go back to getting a real job. It's deadline. You gave yourself a 1-year deadline to come to market with, and several, reiterations, and probably pulling your hair out, and, dealing with BSU engineers, a third-party firm that just wasn't your vibe. Then you finally found the guy, and you're still making changes. What did you go to the 2018 Expo? Like, how many packs and frames did you show up with?
Yeah. So I think the total number of packs that we ended up taking was about like 25, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Wait, what?
25 packs.
Oh,
And
dude, we were jacked.
we were so jacked.
We have 25 packs to sell.
And we were so excited.
And the thing was nobody knew we existed.
We didn't do a soft launch or anything.
Yeah, it was basically Joe and I, and just a
You had a
handful
logo?
of-
We did.
We did.
Okay.
We had a handful of people that knew what we were up to.
Okay.
And we just showed up at the expo. And it was so funny because we set our booth up, and we've still got pictures of this booth.
It was good.
It was good. It really was. It was super exciting. We had a couple of buddies that decided they would help us in the booth.
Yeah.
And but it was so funny because from day one, that when we showed up, we saw our competition one by one walking by, kind of giving the old side eye.
Really?
Trying to figure out who the heck
Who
we
are
were.
these dudes?
That's right.
Yeah, and it was amazing. That year in 2018, we were positioned in a really good spot. We were right next to Sitka, and I think Leopold right there. I mean, surprisingly, for a brand new brand into the expo, we got into a great spot. And we were back in that corner, kind of where the mountain ops and everything is. So we've always had a really good spot, which I think definitely helped just bring some awareness to the brand there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Dan, we walked in with the IA4K. It was the only bag that we had in Coyote. We had a hip belt pouch. We had a pannier. We had the rifle holder, the bow holder.
That was it.
That was it. Yeah, one color.
Yep, one color. And we had, so days before we went to the expo, we had basically our two families got together in my garage. We had a pack building party. Because, I mean, before, we weren't busy. I mean, we're just trying to get ready for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a pack building party. We kind of had assembly lines set up. Everybody was trying to figure out what the heck they were doing. And, and then the next thing you know, we've got 25 packs laying out and stuffed in the back of a
10 by 10.
Yeah, it was
tiny little trailer that we made it work.
That's right.
Made it work.
Would you slang all your packs at the show?
No.
Didn't.
No.
What would we end up selling?
12
of them.
12 packs.
And we were ecstatic.
We were.
That's awesome.
So in 20, oh man, I'll get this date wrong. I want to say it's like 2022 or 2021. We were at the expo. And we didn't sell a pack all day until 5 till 7 p.m. right before close on the day one of the show. So obviously we celebrated, we sold a pack, right? Fast forward a couple of years later, I think it was 2021, 2022, that guy walked in the booth that bought our very first pack. And we were able to get a picture
Are you serious?
with him with the very first pack. That was such a cool, he's from Utah. It was a great
What
deal.
a moment.
Yeah, it was really cool.
What's up, guys? So Black Rifle Coffee Company, we've partnered with them because Dan loves coffee, just black. Literally and figuratively, that's my favorite flavor from Black Rifle. Their energy drinks now have 0 sugar. These are really good. Throw in your cooler, especially on those long drives to elk camp when you got to go across 3 or 4 states. Discount code ELKSHAPE20 will save you some loot. Check out their subscription where the coffee is sent to your doorstep, plus some perks. You can get some swag. That discount code will work store-wide. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-owned, and the founder, Evan, is a buddy of mine who is also a fellow bow hunting addict, specifically for elk. We love Black Rifle Coffee Company. Check them out today. Initial Ascent out of Caldwell, Idaho. I was introduced to the founder, Dennis and Joe, in 2018. I was able to finally try their systems out in 2024, and I made the switch. I think their frame is the best on the market and holds the most weight, comfortably keeping you upright on those heavy packouts. Their pannier system is money. I would definitely recommend the 5K over anything, especially if you're an elk hunter who wants to hunt up to 7 days in the backcountry. You should check them out, and if you're in the market, use the discount code ELKSHAPE to save some loot and support us. Matthews Archery out of Sparta, Wisconsin. They've been a partner of ours since 2019. Absolutely love their bows, their technology, their engineering, and their reliability. As a Western bow hunter, I don't have time to fix things when I'm in the backcountry. I feel like Matthews makes the most bulletproof setup with the best integrated accessories. Head over to a local dealer. Try out the new Lift X in 29.5 or 33. If you're a shorter draw length, don't sleep on the RS. You're going to get great speeds, and it's easily the most tunable bow on the market. Take me through, I love like looking back retrospectively. Take me through some of like big moments for the brand Initial Ascent that have like now looking back, dude, that brought us momentum. Oh my gosh, that was a catalyst. This was an accelerator. Like since 2018 to now 2025. Take me through some of those real quick. I think it's fun to hear it because there are people out there that listen to this that are entrepreneurial and need to hear that, hey, you guys aren't like some trust fund babies who just bought your way into a backpacking scene. Like you just kind of bootstrapped it out of the garage with normal jobs and did it. And you only sold 12 packs year one, man. Like your family helped put everything. I love that. So take us through some.
Yes, I think one that I can think of, and this was kind of funny, and to me, this is God working. So we had, and I'll make the first part of the story really short, but we had this guy Joe met at, was it a Rocky Mountain Elk?
Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Yeah. So he asked Joe, he was like, I can bring all this business to you and all this stuff. Can you put me a pack or something, or can I? He's
going to buy a pack.
He was going to buy a pack.
So I brought it back down to, because it was down in Colorado, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I took the pack to him.
Yeah.
And he was going to write me a check for it while I was there.
Yeah. So 3 bounce checks later, Joe's still trying to get the guy's money because cash was king, man. We needed that money.
Yeah.
Well, that guy introduced us to Jules McQueen, and we got on the phone with Jules, and and Jules had, she'd been in the industry for a long time and everything, and it was just a really cool thing. She wanted to help us. She liked our story. Well, she was at the time dating Dave Baronio, and we had given Jules one of our packs, and Dave was at that time competing in the Train to Hunt. And I think at the time he was, I forget, this was 2018.
Yeah.
And he was competing at the Nationals, and Jules had our pack there. We're doing some event over in South Dakota, Joe and I, and I got this text from Jules and said, "Hey, Dave's going to run your pack in the big, I think it was like a 3.2 mile, 100-pound pack out, and they were going to gain 2,500 feet of elevation. It was a race, and Dave's going to use your pack. His won't work." And so basically what happened was the pack that he was running bowed into his back and everything, and he just couldn't use it. So he used Jules' pack, and that right there, so he won the competition, called me the next week and said, "Man, this is great. I'm an outfitter," and so we just started becoming friends, and that right there was a pivotal pivotal part, and it all started with a guy that bounced 2 or 3 checks trying to pay for his pack.
I would give that guy a hug and a heartbeat if I saw him today. I'd thank him. It was the greatest thing. I've got that check framed in my office.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and it just goes to show you just never know what's going on in somebody's life, right? And we could have quickly just wrote that guy off, said bad things about him, yada, yada, yada. But the amount of doors it has opened from a bounce check is staggering when you step back and you think about it.
Dave's such a well-respected guy throughout the industry, whether it was Outback Outdoors or his time, with, doing train to hunt and all that. And then, of course, he's hauling 30 or 40 animals off the hill every year with
R&K.
R&K as an outfitter. But that relationship right there has opened so many doors for us. Ryan Lampers, Brian Call, Dan Staten.
Oh, hey.
A lot of these guys, and I think everybody that we've dealt with, they've all called Dave, or they've all checked with Dave at some point.
You're darn right. We have.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And because he's the real deal.
Yeah, everybody who knows Dave knows that he's like a man of God. He marries people in the off season. He's a pastor.
Absolutely.
Like full time.
He's going to marry my son here in June.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so he loves the Lord. He's an absolute beast on the mountain. Like, right?
Yep.
Specimen.
He's humble about it. An amazing hunter. He's so good at hunting that he just now guides mostly people. And we call him for sure to see what's up. He's the guy who will text me every Thanksgiving and give me, and it's not a copy and paste text, like clockwork. And I'm always just like, gosh darn you. It makes me feel bad because I'm like, I wish I would have texted him first, but like, he's just a good dude. So yeah, we definitely vet through Dave, and that's crazy that Jules had her own pack that you guys got her squared away with, and he borrows it and wins the train to hunt. And what's funny is that I had a hand in starting train to hunt in 2010 with a business partner, and then I exited in 2012, but I got to watch it go. Too bad it's not. I don't know if it's still going on, but man, it did hit its peak at one point, and it was such a cool concept of shooting under duress, packing out an animal off the mountain, kind of like well-rounded testing for the out west guys. Love that. I don't know if it's still going on, man. But anyways, talk to me about Ryan Lampers and Brian Call, because Brian Call got his start, and he'll tell you this, by kind of jumping in with Snyder. And Snyder was a Kufaru guy, or was soon to be a Kufaru guy at the time. And Brian and Aaron were probably one of the first to kind of make podcasts cool in the hunting space. And that kind of catapulted Brian's career. And I used to kind of give Brian a hard time, like, you rode Aaron Snyder's coattails, bro. Like, no one would know you unless you hadn't. And then I would make fun of him because he started hunting with, once him and Aaron kind of had a falling out, it seemed like he migrated over to my friend, Ryan Lampers, and I'm like calling Ryan Lampers, and I told Brian this, so I'm safe to say this publicly, but I was like, yo, Ryan, watch your back. Like, Brian Call, I think he's a coattail rider. Like, he was with Snyder, and now he's with you. You're an amazing hunter, if not one of the best hunters I've ever met. Watch it. And then Ryan actually told me, basically, you will never say that to me again, Dan. Brian and I are friends. He's the real deal, and I respect him. And I was like, say less. Like, okay, that's cool. And they've hit it off, and they've had a great run together. They're a great team. They have awesome chemistry.
Yeah,
I think they're still working together, and they just put out bangers. You know what I mean? Just good dudes. So how did you guys get connected? Was it Brian? Was it Ryan? Was it both? When did that happen?
Yeah, I think it was Ryan at first. I met Ryan actually his first year of the Western Hunting Summit that he and Hillary put on. You were there. That's the first place I met you.
That's right.
I called Ryan up or I messaged him on Instagram. I didn't have his phone number. I mean, who was I? But I messaged Ryan and said, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my son. He's 16 years old. Would this be okay for him? And, Ryan was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. And so Trey and I went to his Western Hunting Summit, and it was more of, I didn't have in the back of my mind, oh, I'm going to create a relationship with Ryan Lampers and all that. It was, I'm a dad and I want to spend time with my son, and I want the best of the best to be able to speak into my son's life. And I tell Ryan to this day that has had more of an impact on my son, I think, than a lot of things that he's ever done. Guys like Brian Barney, Dan Staten, Ryan Lampers, Mark Livesey, all getting to speak into a 16-year-old at a crucial time in his growth, his development. And, and I think they were pretty impressed with him. He just had that no quit attitude and everything. But that's the first time I met Ryan. And then we sort of just stayed in touch. He was using another pack at the time, and and very happy. But we just stayed in touch, and Trey and I ended up coming back to the Western Hunting Summit the next year. We just had such a great time, and then next thing you know, Ryan and I forget what year it was, but I was telling him that we got to talking about elk hunting, and I told him, I says, well, hey, if you ever draw near us or anything, give me a shout if you need some help. Well, I'm sitting at an NFL game, a New England Patriots game I think it was on a Monday night with my buddy in Boston, because we try to go to one game every year. I get a text from Ryan Lampers. It says, big bull down. I need some help. And I told him, I said, I'm in New England, but I'm flying back tomorrow morning. I said, I'll gather up my son, and I said, we'll get out there. He says, it's going to be a few days before I get this bull out. I'm so far back. And so ended up, long story short, helping him pack out his bull. And we just kind of stayed connected. And then one day I got a call from, or I think it was Ryan told me that I needed to talk to Brian. And called Brian up, and we had I think it was a 2-hour conversation on the side of the road, and over the phone. And he was interested in trying the pack, and he at that time he was like, Ryan, he's not quite there yet. He's still got some stuff going on his side of things, but I'd really like to try it. And so that's kind of how it all began.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's another pivotal, like once those guys, you had them on lock, they really helped catapult you guys. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, the way I did kind of talk on a pod with Tyler about how I got connected, but the Cliff Notes version is somehow Tyler got your pack from Black Ovis because they're carrying it, and he wanted to. Tyler likes to test and vet all sorts of brands, and so he shows up to elk camp in 2024. And this was the only hunt I had planned to share a camp with him. He's a firefighter, he's a captain firefighter. He doesn't have a lot of time. And he's also pretty cool guy. Like he doesn't identify as a bow hunter. He's a hunter. So whatever weapon. And so he had like a rifle tag in Montana. And so he kind of just gave himself 6 days archery in Idaho, which isn't a ton of time, as you guys know. Idaho is steep. Idaho has really good local hunters, and Idaho does have some good non-resident hunters too. Idaho is always the most challenging place for me to kill an elk. And it's not the elk. It's the terrain and it's the hunting pressure. There's just good hunters in there, man. You got to like know what you're doing. So I think Tyler showed up finally, and I'd been there for a few days, and his first day there, I killed. He got there that night, and I had killed that night. So the next morning, he helped me pack it out, and I had a unique schedule where I had like a 4-day layover where I was scheduled to go to Utah, but I killed early, and I was like, this is great. Like, can I follow you around with a camera and just be your Sherpa, your caller, your guide, your photographer, your cheerleader? And he was like, yeah. And I'd been in this spot a handful of times, so I kind of knew it, and he had never been there before. So I took Tyler around, and we had some great days together, and where we were hunting is pretty beautiful. So I'm snapping some stills, and I remember meeting you in Bozeman in the 2018. I was helping out Lampers doing something for him, and we got back after a long fall, and I'm sitting there, and I got 600 photos of this backpack that I work with Kafaru. I'm not but I knew you, and I was like, man, I bet Dennis would want some of these photos, because there's a couple good ones in here. And I happened to watch Tyler go through your backpack a lot, because he stops a lot and changes out layers, because he's the most sweaty guy you've ever met. Like when he's soaked in sweat, I'm wearing a puffy trying to be warm. Like he's just a heater. So he's got to stop, and he was going through your pack, and then he also packed out my bull with your pack. And so I got to look at your pack, and I'd never seen one in real life. And you know me, I'm working with Kafaru, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to check out your pack.
Sure.
And so I think it was I don't remember maybe November, December of 24. I was like, hey, Dennis, I got some photos. Do you want them? And you're like, sure. And so I just Dropboxed you some files, and then we got to talking. And I think what it was Tyler really wanted to film a video at your guys' HQ.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were cool with it. And so we flew ourselves down to just kind of do a factory tour and let Tyler make an ELKSHAPE gear video. And then at the very end, I think it was you're like, Dan, you got to try one on before you leave and do this 150-pound test. And I'm glad you did. Because I had a contract in my email inbox with Kafaru for a renewal. And I had no plans of switching. And I put that pack on, and I said, okay, this is just the frame, right? And you're like, no, there's 40 pounds right now on the frame. You had a sandbag full of 40 pounds.
Right.
And I was like, are you sure? You're like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, you're like, all right, now we're going to put 50 pounds on each side of you. And I was like, okay, so this is 140 pounds. You're like, yep. And I'm like, all right, I can stand all the way upright. What kind of magic, what kind of voodoo are you guys doing? What kind of trick are you doing? And that sold me. I knew right then and there that I had found something that was going to work better for me. And my personality is not a very good business one, to where I won't make decisions based on money. I'll make decisions based on how can I kill more elk, or how can I have more success in the field. And fortunately, you guys were open to the idea of working together. But it was putting on the 140 pounds and standing upright. And we have it on video.
We do.
So you can see the posture that I would normally have with a large load. And then you can see the posture I have with your guys' system. When did you figure out that part of your system where you can literally carry your body weight and not pay the price?
Yeah. So, the original design on that frame, I want to say generation 12, 13, 14, was to finalize.
And maybe 15. It had to be right.
It had to be right. Was to finalize being able to carry your rifle sling up on the frame, right? Because back then, think about it, a lot of the long-range rifles were 12 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was complaining about, man, I hate carrying this rifle. I don't want to take it. So people stopped taking the rifles, including us. And it was like, no, we have to get this right. And so we made sure the last 2 or 3 generations that was bulletproof. And that's what that was designed for originally. Well, then back to our good buddy, Mr. Baronio, all right, he's out on the mountain. And for him, it's all about efficiency, getting the animal off the mountain as quickly as possible with as little as effort as possible, fewest trips as possible. So we were at another event, and Dave got a hold of us and said, hey, listen, have you guys ever put deer quarters up on those upper limbs? And we're like, no, that's not what it was designed for. It's designed to carry your rifle sling. He's like, I'm going to try it. And so we're a little bit concerned, like, is it going to hold? How's it going to perform? We'd never done that. Well, sure enough, Dave runs it. So it works great. Calls us up, says, man, it worked awesome. I'm going to do elk quarters that way next. So a couple days later, Dave throws some elk quarters up there and walks it out that way. And that was kind of that moment where it's like, that is different, radically different. That was not the intent. So we went back, and this is one of the advantages of having, our manufacturing right here on our frame.
Mm-hmm.
We went back to our manufacturer and we sat down and we looked at it layer by layer and said, okay, if the frame is used in this format, what do we need to do to reinforce it? Make sure it's never going to fail. And he's brilliant, right? He's like, well, if we take the fibers and go this direction, we can reinforce it and do yada, yada, yada. So we made changes on that upper limb to give it more strength, probably 2 or 3 different times as we just continued to fine tune it, make sure it was just right. We didn't have them breaking, but we wanted to make sure it wouldn't break. And from there, I would say we gradually started adopting this narrative around, hey, because, at that point, that wasn't the intent. But once we saw Dave do it and we started doing it, then it was like, well, wait a second. The number one issue we hear in the showroom floor over and over and over again is lower back issues. So like we've got a solution here, right? Because every time you stack the weight, it gets exponentially heavier the further away you go from your back. Well, if we can now hang it over the sides to where your center of gravity allows you to stand upright and you can carry it that way, get the pressure off your lower back, guys are going to perform way better.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave continued to do this, and he's packing, 15, 20, 30 elk a year off the mountain. And it just proved that, yeah, this works well. I recover faster. And Dave gave us that information. So people started doing it. And then I want to say it was around 2022 maybe at the expo, we started putting sandbags on the sides as we were fitting packs. And we fit a lot of packs at the expo. I mean, there are so many people that come through the booth. So we start doing it there at the expo, and that became kind of our wow factor. And then we kind of just through that process, that evolution was like, you know what? This is what makes us different.
Yeah.
We want to carry heavy loads more comfortably. This allows us to do it. And ever since then, that's been our direction, and it's proven to perform exceptionally well.
Yeah. You said recovery. I've not packed out 20 plus elk in a season.
Mm-hmm.
And Baronio's got the opportunity, if he gets a client, when he gets a client's tag punched, there's a good chance he could have another client right there, like take over. There could be one guide who's got 2-on-1, and now they go back to 1-on-1. As a guide, you're gonna get a better tip with a 1-on-1 than you are 2-on-1, and you have a better chance to get that guy his elk. So financially, he's incentivized, and physically, it could be pretty taxing to pack an elk out, right, man? So I kind of want to look back to my last season. I killed 4 bulls. I did that in a 30-day stretch. So I've done that before. I don't know if I'll ever do it again. Like, you just never know. Like, the slate's wiped clean every year, fellas. That's why I'm a psycho about preparing for elk hunting, is I've convinced myself the slate gets wiped clean and that there's no laurels to rest on. But my first bull was killed September 9th in New Mexico. And what I ended up having to do on that bull was putting a rear in my bag, because to get the meat shelf on the former pack I used to run, it's just what the juice ain't worth the squeeze to get it out, get the bag away from the frame. And even if you did, it wasn't very close to the frame, and it wasn't in the middle of your back. It was always lower, right? So it's just a bad combination. So that elk, I got a hold of my camera guy who was at the truck and was like, oh, hey, by the way, I killed an elk. Can you help me? And he said, yes. So he came up, we each took a rear out, came back up, and then we took shoulder, loose meat, and the rack. So it was 2 tripper. Okay. Fast forward. So that was the 9th. My next elk would be the 15th. And I happen to have 2 friends who could help me, and we 1-tripped it between 3 guys, which isn't terrible, but I definitely had a rear. I had some loose meat. I had the rack, and it wasn't a terrible pack out. So I'm feeling pretty good to have killed 2 bulls within a 6-day period. My next bull will be 10 days later. It'll be September 25th, and that was in Utah, and I had 4 guys because I was a private ranch, and there was outfitters, there's guides, like that was easy. And then my last one was October 4th in Montana solo, and it was 83 degrees, which we're talking about what you were saying. And my bull dies in the middle of the sage with 0 shade.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you guys know it's pure panic. And what I ended up doing on that elk was the way I hiked was I gained a ton of elevation, dropped a ton of elevation to get to that bull. killed them, and it was easier for me to go take the entire elk further away from my truck because there was a road that way, and I could get a 4-wheeler around to that one. So what I ended up doing was quartering the elk and not even using my backpack because I didn't want to like put bloody quarters inside my backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up taking quarters over the shoulder one by one and just hiking 1 mile from the kill to the road, drop it off, back and forth. So I did 4, maybe even 5 trips. Yeah, I did 5 trips. I did a quarter loose meat, a quarter loose meat, and then the rack. And then the rack actually I packed towards the truck. So the point being is, dang it, I would have loved to tried your system out. I think I could have done some, like that last bull, the Montana bull. I think I could have done potentially 2 trips at most.
Yeah.
So you have a better system. You have a better pack out system. And for guys like me who try to stack as many tags as possible, a pack out can kick my butt and affect the way I hunt for the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I can succumb to weakness and be like, I'm not going to go after that bull tonight. I just don't have the gas for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't come home. I don't see my wife or kids for 30 days straight every September. It is tough, but to be able to hunt your best, you need to be able to have some efficiency. And there needs to be some efficacy to packing out an animal, especially solo, which I tend to do more than not. So I think all that jibber jabber was to say, that's mainly why I made the switch was I don't think you have cooler pockets. I don't think you have like cooler material. I think you guys created the greatest frame that the industry has ever seen. And I'm saying that, not you. I'm saying that is. And then the icing on the cake for me is when we started talking about getting a partnership, I wanted to check out your prices. And I was pleasantly surprised because before you guys, I was pushing something that, man, you better just get $1,500 and set it aside to get into the system I'm running. When you add in all the accessories and stuff I have, shit, that's a lot of money, man. So for half the price and better pack out system, I think people should not sleep on an Initial Ascent, you know? And I wanted to tell you guys that to your face because like you probably didn't know the psychology of me and how I came to work with you, but that really, the decision was based on how am I able to pack out more elk more efficiently, safely. And this year, especially having knee surgery, you know, I was investing in my trajectory of like, Dan, I want to elk hunt for another 30 years. I have been rolling without an ACL for 15. I think it's time to get it done. And then talking to Joe, you've had 6 knee surgeries.
I have. Yeah.
And then Dennis, you have disc herniations.
Yeah. L4, L5.
Which is not the best place. That's where the sciatic nerve comes out.
Yep.
You know? So like between the 3 of us, and we're all old farts in here, we don't want to be limited by some of our prior injuries and stuff like that, right?
No.
Right.
And not a one of us is very tall compared to other people, right? So you put 2 elk quarters on us versus Tyler Denham, who's 6'3", 225. Mass moves mass, baby.
Yeah.
Unless you have Initial Ascent.
Yep.
You guys can make that a shirt if you want. But that's
Love
the
it.
truth,
I like
right?
that.
Like it is like your system was created by a rifle accessory piece on the frame, and then Dave Baronio puts
Right.
a spin on it. And you remember seeing his first few videos? You're like, I remember being like, this is fake news.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
not real life. You can't do that. Like picture, guys listening, picture a dude with a quarter on his back and a rack and then 2 elk quarters, probably rears on the sides. And he's walking like he's in the park.
It's crazy.
And it makes no sense.
I've got over 100 pack out pictures on my phone of Dave doing that. Over 100.
Yeah.
I've even got the first deer
Yeah.
that he packed out, and I've got that first elk that he packed out.
We've seen him pack out an entire cow elk in one trip by himself.
Yeah, he said he
no
usually
doubt.
does a couple of those every year.
It's just amazing.
I have no doubt.
Amazing. But if you watch him train in the off season, it goes back to what you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
right? This is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're going to put yourself in the best spot to perform. And if you look at what Dave does is he'll take, and he has these plastic, they're shaped like an elk quarter. He'll hang them on the side of the frame so that he has over 100 pounds on him.
Yep.
And that's what he goes and hikes trails with in the off season. So he trains for it year round, so that he can do that. But
Yeah.
he's mentally a beast.
He is. And he loves the Lord. And he's
does.
super humble. And he's a great hunter. We're his hype man. We hype him up. Okay, fellas, let's talk about the market today. Things are getting shifty. We got a new president in 2025. It seems like there's some changes going on or whatever. There's a real push for USA manufacturing. And so let's just clear the air. Let's just figure out real quick, like, where do you guys source your stuff? Where is it assembled? Transparency being king. That frame is made here in the States.
It is. Yeah, it's made in Idaho. We make it in Rexburg. Always have. With it being the foundation, we wanted to have that really close and just being able to make the quick adjustments like I talked about, with Dave. We also did that with the shed hunters, by the way. Shed hunters are brutal on a frame, so we reinforced some things based on some feedback there. But yeah, so we make our frame here, but for a lot of years we made everything domestic, 100%. And I think it was about 3 years ago, during COVID, during that whole time period, and even leading up to that a little bit, it became more and more clear the limitations domestically for us to really be able to take it to that next level from a scale. Not so much price. Price wasn't what we were focused on. It was all, how do we take this from where we're at today to be able to support the demand of tomorrow?
Yeah.
And we built it up to where we had 5 manufacturers across the United States that we were working with. We'd interviewed over 100, and we had 5 that could actually do what we wanted to do. And then once COVID hit, all 5 of them pivoted like that. We're going to go make all the medical stuff. And next thing you know, fortunately we had inventory because we've always built a model around having inventory.
Yeah.
And so that kind of fast-tracked us to where we had to start thinking about other options, right? To have a business model that's sustainable, that's not limited based on, skill or scale. So we started interviewing companies globally and started looking outside the U.S., but still to continue a footprint here. So now we have a global footprint. We manufacture some stuff in Logan, Utah. We manufacture stuff in Idaho. We manufacture stuff in Taiwan, Vietnam. So it's global now. And it's been a phenomenal experience for us to be able to bring things to market that honestly we just really struggled with before as far as speed goes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that your price points, you probably could charge more, to be honest with you guys. Like I'm sure you have your margins and stuff that you need to hit, but you could be greedier or greedy. Maybe, yeah. You could be greedy and charge more. I guess all I'm trying to say in the nicest way possible is that I love your price point. I think they're really affordable for what you're getting. There's a lot of value there. And it's really cool for me to stand behind the brand and just be like, guys, you can afford this. And this is a buy once, cry once, and you're still not, spending $1,000.
Right.
And great customer service, stand behind their product. And this frame is built for war. So those are cool things. Do you think you guys are going to outgrow your current location that we visited?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have it as one of our as we're starting to look in strategy development over the next couple of years. Actually, this year we're starting to look at a bigger facility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I figured as much. I'm not saying it was small because it's not, but I know the growth that's coming your way. And I'm seeing more and more of my peers asking me about Initial Ascent. Some of them buying your packs and stuff like that. It's like, okay, this is cool. We're in a cool moment in time for your guys' growth. I don't think you'll have a better, I don't think you'll have a better opportunity than 2025 to really put your mark in the space. And it's not just out west backpacks. I mean, there's some other stuff coming, which is cool. That was a tease. That was a hint. Dennis, question for you. Talk to me about your team at Initial Ascent. What's that look like? What's the flow? What's the vibe for the week to week? How's it work?
Yeah, so Joe and I, we're there. Joe mentioned he's full time now. I'm still, I've still got a passion project that I've worked with for the last 25 years, and so I'm in there. I'm in there a lot, but man, our team it's just the best team in the world. We've got Chase, who's our marketing director, and anything content, social media, email, just anything planning. He's kind of the brains behind what we need and when we need it, pushing these campaigns out, that sort of thing. We've got his brother Cody, who's our shop manager and head of customer service now. We've got an intern Wyatt that has been just awesome. He's a senior at Boise State. And then we've of course got some outside people that help as well, but that's kind of the internal crew. And man, it's really surreal how blessed we are and how far we've come in such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, a year and a half ago, Joe and I, it was just us. He was in his garage, I was in my garage. He's counting out buckles and making deals, sending raw materials out to 5 manufacturers and making sure that we had enough inventory in my shop so we could continue to sell backpacks. I'm doing all of the customer facing stuff. Joe's doing all of the back end stuff, from accounting to taxes to all the raw goods and everything, manufacturing wise, and I'm customer facing. So I'm running social media, I'm running emails, I'm running YouTube. I'm trying to do it all, and at the same time we've got full-time jobs. But now fast forward, and these guys just drove a U-Haul truck all the way to Colorado with all of our stuff for the Mile High Expo. And for the first time ever, Joe and I just got to fly in the night before and work the show. We love working the shows and seeing the people. And then we got to fly out, and those dudes broke it all down, drove it all the way back. And it was just amazing to know, how far that's come in such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Joe and I have actually gotten to take a couple of our hats that we used to wear and hang them up or pass them on to these young guys, and it's just a great team.
It is, and I think it goes back to just you surround yourself with good people. You give them the ability to go prove themselves, right? Give them the latitude to perform and do it maybe differently than how we would do it,
Sure.
right? Which
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah.
It's got a couple old farts here. Right. And so it's good to get these young bucks in here with some new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's been an absolute blessing.
Let's think about the big team real quick. You talked about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've done, with guys like yourself, guys like Ryan Lampers, guys like Dave Baronio, all these guys that are solid individuals. And oh, by the way, fantastic at their craft, best in the world.
Yeah. And to that point, you asked about kind of aha moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big moments within Initial Ascent. And one of them that definitely comes to mind is what you're talking about, Dennis. From the very beginning, and this is God's hand, He has put people in our lives within this business that we did not deserve or earn. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? Early on, I think of Butch Whiting, right? From Cryptech. Butch has been phenomenal. Jules McQueen, phenomenal. Cheston down at Phone Scope early on, right? The guys at Canvas Cutter, Scree. It was just one company after another, after another, after another. It's like they didn't need us in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
But this community is exceptional at opening the door and saying, hey, you know what? I was there. I'm going to help you. I was just met with Dave at Baku here recently.
Oh, yeah.
Salt of the earth guy.
Dave Andre,
man.
what up, bud?
Man.
Good dude.
Was great dude. And it was just like he and I had kind of talked over the years, seen each other, but didn't know each other. And he's like, come on down, man. Just come down. And it was just those kind of people have been such a blessing to us. and opened doors of opportunity, brought people into us that they didn't need to. Now it's our chance, as we continue to get bigger, for us to do the same, right? And that's one thing that just gets me jacked.
Wow, that's pretty neat to hear. Like, the community, because you could be treated differently if you are a threat to another company, or maybe you're a threat to one of their friends' companies. You don't have to help you, but they want to. I think the industry that we're in is small, really small, and you get reminded of that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool that you've made some good friends along the ways and people that are willing to give. And when you're talking about like little funny God stories, this last couple days, so Riley and I went down to go do the Black Rifle Veteran Adaptive Athlete Shoot. It's something that Black Rifle's done. I think this was the 5th year, but I felt like they took a break because the last time I'd gone to one was 2022. And I remember telling Evan, one of the guys who founded Black Rifle, I was like, bro, I don't care about the funny stuff you make on social media and the cool commercials. Whatever this veteran thing is that you just I got to be a part of was the greatest event I've ever done. And that was in 22. Fast forward to 2025, we get invited, found out they're doing it again. So Riley and I are like, cool, we'll go down and we'll do this event. It's a 2-day event. Then we find out that Total Archery Challenge in Texas is going on right after it gets done. 1.5-hour drive. We'll extend our stay. So now we're going down to Texas for 4 days. Cool. And it's all centered around archery and vets. Cool. What I didn't know is that, yes, the Veteran Adaptive Athlete Shoot was amazing. It always is. It doesn't disappoint. We're talking guys in wheelchairs using mouth tabs, guys with 1 leg, 2 legs, 1 arm. Pretty cool. But what really brought it home for me was what God had planned for us at TAC. We go to TAC, and we shot the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation course day 1, early in the morning. And we got done, and I was looking at Riley, and I was like, all right, I bet I made Riley bring his bow. And I was like, you probably want to shoot. Let's go up in the afternoon and shoot, and it'll be fun. And we hop on the shuttle with all these strangers who are up there, and they're taking us up to the Sitka course, the Prime course, the Jack Links course. You got all these options. And of course we want to shoot the Prime course because word on the street is like, it's got a 150-yard moose target. It's really the hardest course. And it's called Total Archery Challenge. Let's do the most challenging course. So we're going to that course. We're on a shuttle. And in the back of the bus is this dude laying on the ground because there's not enough seats. And he's got an entire prosthetic leg. And if anyone deserved a seat instead of laying on the ground, it would be this dude. And so I just kind of asked him, I was like, hey bro, can I ask you what happened to your leg? And he was like, oh yeah, I lost it in Afghanistan. And it's like, okay, say less. I understand. And we didn't really talk much more than that. I was just like, okay, cool. Thank you for your service. Well, we ended up getting off the bus and talking to this guy a little bit. And then we're like, well, let's shoot the course together. So we shot all 25 targets with the guy. And that is the reason we came down there, was to meet this guy, Paul. It was to do the Veteran Adaptive, sure. And it was to do TAC, sure, but it was God's plan for us to meet him and shoot the course with him and get to know his story. And he said something, he said a couple things, but the first profound thing he said was, oh, you guys are from Green Acres, Washington. I have a guy who's coming down here to film a documentary on me. And when he said that to me, I instantly said, holy crap, I know that guy. That guy owns a production company, and he came over here to this studio and brought Hannah Barron, the noodling girl. He brought her over to podcast with me, and when he walked in, he told me he had a production company. He's not a hunter. And he's like, oh, you're a hunter? I'm going down to Texas to do a documentary on this veteran who lost a leg. And he told me that 3 months ago. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am hanging out with the guy from Green Acres is going to do. This is World Small.
Wow.
The last thing the guy said to me, Paul, and I don't know if he said it on camera or not, but he basically was like, here's the deal, Dan. I was serving, the country. I was in Afghanistan. I took 5 rounds, 2 to the leg, 1 underneath my flak in my stomach, which blew out his back, 1 in the chest, his flak caught that, and 1 through the helmet. And the one through the helmet, it still doesn't he showed me pictures. It doesn't make sense how that thing didn't blow up his brain. But somehow that round missed everything and didn't kill him. And he lost his leg, and he said, and it's been a nightmare. And at one point, I had a pistol in my mouth. I'm ready to end it all. But what I was able to do is replace that pistol with this bow. And it's been changed my life. And archery's become like my all-time greatest ally in therapy. And I'm just like, oh, God, this is why you sent us down to Texas. We almost didn't even go. You know what I mean? And so it's like those little, you look back and you're like, man, I don't know how that happened, but like I would have never planned that. That's not me. That's him. There's those cool little moments like that where, you know, if you're willing to stop and listen, he'll give you those nudges. And that's definitely one of those deals where I came home just so grateful for him allowing us that opportunity.
Wow. What a story, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And I hope to get that guy on our podcast. I called his producer from down the road and I said, hey, man, I know you're filming a documentary. You got to come do some of your post-documentary interviews. Have him come up to Spokane. I want another day with him. I want him on the pod. I want some veterans to hear that message because you know darn well there's some dudes right now who don't know about archery but know about that handgun.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about, they just don't know. So there's some cool stuff going on in the archery industry, man, and the hunting world and giving back. It's pretty cool. Have you guys decided to do anything for veterans in your business?
We do. Yeah, we do a couple different things. We work with Higher Ground, which is based out of, you familiar with them?
Yep.
So we worked with them the last couple of years, which has been a phenomenal experience for us. And then we also do with Backcountry Hunter veterans.
Yeah, Backcountry Veterans there. It's a friend of mine, and you talk about how God puts people in the right places at the right time. I'll tell you a quick story about that. So Kevin McFarland is my buddy. His daughter is marrying my son, and this is how I ended up meeting Kevin. But Kevin's been coming on Wednesday mornings. We've been doing a hike at 6 a.m. every Wednesday morning, and Kevin came, and another veteran, John Sisson, he's coming and all that. Kevin calls me the next day after we got, and Kevin and John had never met, but John told him about some of the things that he was doing to treat his PTSD and some of the things that you just don't know about unless you're in it, right? And Kevin he texts me and he says, man, I really believe God puts people in our lives at the right time. He said, I just got a call from my buddy that saved my life several years ago when I had a pistol in my mouth. And he's not feeling real good right now. And he said he's looking for the treatment that John was talking about and was wondering if I knew anything about it. He says, so I hooked him up with John. And I mean, it doesn't happen on accident.
It can't.
No.
Wow.
But he runs this Backcountry Veterans organization, and it used to be Idaho Backcountry Veterans, but now they're kind of going out to multiple states, you know. But that's what they do. They take veterans out on hunting and fishing, outdoor experiences, because there's a certain number of veterans every single day that take their own lives. And they're trying to prevent that. They're trying to lessen that number. So it's a really cool thing.
Very cool. Yeah, I love hearing that you guys do that give back. For those watching, those listening, man, these guys are the real deal. Pretty pumped to work with them. Can't get rid of me. I'm in it for the long road. And go ahead, try out this pack. If you're in the market, I definitely think it's something that you could consider looking into as an option. These guys go to a lot of the shows that are in the surrounding areas. If you're like one of those guys, got to like look, touch, feel. I get it. Hit them up at Expo. Hit them up at the Mile High. What other shows do you guys do? Do you guys do any of the Northwest, like the P&W or?
We'll be at TAC in Utah.
TAC in Utah. That's there'll be 5,000 shooters there.
Yep.
Be a great place to check out. What else?
And then Shields. We're in a lot of the Shields. So we're in Billings. We're in Sandy. We're in Reno. We're in Meridian. We'll be in Johnstown here soon.
Okay.
So there's a lot of locations there that you can go check it out as well.
Definitely customer service. And then if you get a chance, we're gonna make a video right after this pod. We're gonna fit Riley for his pack, so you guys can watch that and kind of learn, see how to get your pack to fit you perfectly. These guys know a little thing or two about that. If you're wondering if you should get an 8K, 5K, 3K, I'm telling you that the 5K will do everything you need to, and then some. When you walked in the door with the 5K fully extended out, I remember saying, "Is that the 8K?" And you're like, "No." I was like, "Oh, wow, I guess my 5K can do it all." So there's options for all of your style of hunts and some cool stuff coming out in the future we're working together on. So head over to Initial Ascent to learn more. Separation is in the preparation. Fellas, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you, Dan.
time. We'll catch you on the next one.